And this is where we open the discussion now. We discuss this in more detail. We're joined by political analyst Professor Dirk Kotze and security expert and author Bradley Steyn, and we're taking your calls as well, 010-594-6010, or send us a WhatsApp on 072-110-5584. Gentlemen, a good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I think, Bradley, I'd like for you to start and actually just talk about, I suppose, the logistical and security detail here. When you hear, and you've got the confirmation now from police saying, yes, they can confirm that a shooting incident did in fact take place, what is the first thing that pops up in your mind? And are there loopholes in your view in the Deputy President's security detail?
Well, thank you very much for having me on this evening, and good evening to your viewers. So in a situation like this, you know, where the South African police have actually now come forward and said, yes, there's evidence that a projectile hit the windscreen, and further forensics are being done to establish what kind of caliber, etc. One thing sort of sticks out to me from a standard operational procedure around protecting a dignitary, and in this case, our deputy president, is in a motorcade like this, certain cars have certain responsibilities. And if, in fact, you do come under fire, there's a protocol in which to deal with it, so that, you know, we can do things like identify the threat firstly, and then neutralize the threat. And obviously, at the same point of time, get the deputy president off the X. So, you know, the deputy president gets taken, rushed further away, and you know, the police that are there supporting the motorcade and the protectors that are there also address that threat. And I haven't heard anything like that. So you know, there's a few things off here for me. So but this is all purely speculation until we obviously see what the investigation comes up with, and if any information comes forthcoming, because you know these very often turn out to be classified at the end of the day.
Yeah, Prof Kotze, good evening to you as well. Thank you for joining us. Just from the political lens then, some of your biggest concerns, again, the SAPS confirms a shooting incident involving the deputy president. Your political point of view, is there a crisis that you might very well see here?
Good evening to you, all of you. No, I don't see a crisis here. I think the fact that it comes now only 3 weeks afterwards, after it's clearly there was an investigation that happened, the fact that the deputy president himself is very secure about his own position is not, there's no panic or there's no sense of insecurity. There's also not a question about whether there has been some form of conspiracy against him, that it is a political act necessarily, that it is something that was planned by some other security forces, that it was a type of overthrow or regime change, nothing like that. There's nothing of any of these aspects that's been raised. And the explanation, I don't know if we will ever receive really an explanation of what happened here. Because this is when a president or deputy president, or even for that matter a minister, is in a motorcade, they are possibly in the safest position they can be. It's only when they are outside. And that we have seen, for example, in the case of President Trump during his campaign, when he was shot at, The case of President Kennedy, who was assassinated in an open car. It wasn't closed. The same with the former Pope. The same with President Reagan that was hit when he was standing on the pavement. Once they are in a car, they're actually in one of the safest positions they can be. And I've seen it myself several times when these motorcades come past you. They drive very fast. They drive in two lanes. And there are many cars. You don't know in which of these cars the president or the deputy president is actually. So this, for someone to target that looks to me more of an opportunistic approach. It's not something that looks very well planned.
It then raises the question around criminality, if this could just be, that and not necessarily a target. But Bradley, perhaps you can help us with that. If you were on the Deputy President's security detail, would you at this point be concerned that the Deputy President is being targeted? And what would you do about it?
Well, how long is a piece of string? The Deputy President has a colorful background. He comes from Alex, and we know what his nickname was back then. So who knows? But at the end of the day, somebody to pull out a firearm just for humor and shoot it at a government motorcade is either incredibly stupid or it takes guts to pull a firearm out and fire it at a motorcade. And the prof is 100% right. Once you're in that vehicle, you're incredibly safe. You can't use a pistol, for instance, against a vehicle like that. When there was a plot to assassinate Nelson Mandela in '94, they wanted to use a 50 caliber sniper rifle. And that's why President Mandela ended up having that class around him. And that's what Andre Lincoln, who was his head of department at the time, called for. So it's evaluating the risks and the threats. So obviously we don't have insight into what his risk profile looks like at this time. But, people also do silly things in this country because they unfortunately don't think that our law enforcement has the ability to react or step up. So, sometimes people do reckless things.
That's going to be an interesting one to hear what our viewers certainly think about what this says about their confidence in law enforcement. But let's take calls. 010-594-6010. We're in conversation with Professor Dirk Coetzee, and security expert, as well as author Bradley Steyn, as we look at the incident that has now been confirmed by police, and that there was, in fact, a shooting incident involving the Deputy President. Let's hear from Peter in Polokwane. Peter, good evening.
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
I'm well, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Yes.
Talk to me.
Yes, the issue of the deputy president. It's very clear that in this country, security is not enough. That's the matter of fact, because if really South Africa citizen number 2 is being attacked, what about me and you? It's why normally we see people are shooting randomly when people are intervening for entertainment. And then it shows clearly that our government and the security of this country really is out. We are not protected at all.
Yeah. So you want to see more done to boost your confidence in the sort of security that our leaders have. Peter, thank you so much for calling. Let's see some of the WhatsApps that have come in as well this evening. Bushy Green sends a WhatsApp that reads, "The circus happening in the ANC reminds me of a mafia film in the 50s called We Only Kill Each Other, starring Ben Bugsy Siegel. Factionalism is at play here." Bushy, we appreciate your input. Thank you so much for that. Amokwebo says, Good evening. There is no such attack, as no one sees Mashatile as a threat. It is his move to prepare for the 2027 elective conference. He's playing the Trump and Zuma moves for political pity from the community. This is the issue, though, is that the SAPS has confirmed that there was indeed a shooting incident. Jerry says, good evening, Naledi and my fellow viewers. I find it difficult to believe this assassination plot. Looking at the number of vehicles in a convoy, tailgating, that he could be the target and get to him. Doesn't make sense at all. Jerry, we appreciate your input. Nathan says, good evening. It's shocking to hear that the security of the deputy president didn't know they were under attack, but they beat up young people who didn't move aside for the motorcade. Nathan, thank you so much for sending in. That's what's up. We'll take more of them in. Sifudi is calling in Randfontein. Sifudi, good evening.
Good evening to you, Sister Lady. How are you and your guests?
I'm well, Sifudi. Talk to us.
You know, Naledi, to us, we say the chickens have come home to roost. What about the poor people that have been shot at, killed, and burned on weekly, daily basis, suffering at the rate of crime, and nothing is being done? And to us, you say, maybe coming to where the seat of power is, this crime, maybe they'll get a wake-up call and drink a hot coffee and do something about crime. We are not surprised. We say, come out to the daily reality of the common man in the street. Good evening to you, Sister Lady.
Good evening to you too, Sifudi. Thank you so much for that. And there's so much to discuss with our two panelists. And one of the issues is, of course, the question around one of the WhatsApps that we got this evening, bringing it, saying, is factionalism at play here? We'll respond to that on the other side of this. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, we continue looking into the incident that involved a shooting and what the deputy president and his team have also described as an alleged attempted assassination on the deputy president. And of course, this statement coming in this evening from the SAPS as we have this discussion. And of course, it says that the General Fannie Masemola confirms the reinforcement of security, but also confirming that a shooting incident involving the deputy president's convoy is in fact being investigated, but they confirm a shooting incident. So in fact, there was a shooting that they are in fact investigating, and now the question is why, how, and all of those details. Prof. Kotze, let's get into the next part of the question, which is going to be how much of this has to do with his presidency for 2027? Treasurer General says, no, that's not the link.
Well, I think, first of all, as sort of a point of departure, one can't exclude any explanation or any option to say this is not at all possible. From a rogue person who has purely criminal intent to a person who is highly politicized within the ANC and part of the preparations for the next national conference. Anything in between that is possible. But there are certain factors which I think complicates this. And for example, the fact that, going back to the detail of the event itself, it's only a person who really understands the protection of the president and the deputy president who will be able to distinguish between the motorcade of President Ramaphosa and that of the deputy president Mashatile. So it's not clear that it was that the attack, that the person who were responsible for the attack attacked the deputy president necessarily. It could have been the president, except if it's a real insider who has all these very specific knowledge about all these security operations are done. I think when it comes to the internal dynamics of the ANC, we've seen over many years that the idea of assassinations, especially in KwaZulu-Natal, well, since 1994, really, especially at the time of elections, have been very much, it has happened quite a lot. So one can't exclude the possibility of assassinations as part of the internal dynamics of the ANC. whether it's factional or not, but we see it happens between, especially amongst candidates for either elections, local elections especially, but other elections, less for ANC conference elections. So I think this makes the current situation and this particular issue so very difficult to analyze or to explain is because we simply don't have really enough information in order to be able to link it to possible persons involved as well as possible reasons for doing that.
And so, Prof, if I stay with you for a moment, the fact that this allegedly took place after an ANC NEC meeting, is that a red flag?
Well, the one possibility is that the person was aware of the NEC meeting at the Birchwood Hotel in Boksburg, that the meeting will come to an end, and that they will take a particular route back to Johannesburg. So that creates the possibility that that person had some more inside knowledge of the dynamics within the ANC, whether it's an ANC person or not. Can be a person who followed everything in the media also.
Yeah.
But that seems to be possible. Or the other one is just a spontaneous reaction to see, here the blue lights come, I don't like them, shoot. But that is, it's more unlikely because that means the person must have been armed, and it's very difficult to be armed and not be seen if you are standing along next to an highway.
Bradley, I come to you now. Sifudi says the chickens have come to roost. Now perhaps our leaders will know just the level of criminality that everyday South Africans are living with. And I'm keen to hear what you think of that. But the timing, again, after an ANC NEC meeting, is that a red flag?
Well, firstly, I think Sifudi is spot on, and that's our biggest problem that we have in South Africa. I'm a stone throws away from Langa here in Cape Town at the moment, working in the field. And when I tell you that the reality for the people on the ground here in Langa and the reality of a president or deputy president rather being in a armored vehicle is two completely different worlds. So, crime prevention and the preservation of life is unfortunately a massive issue, as we've heard here from this person calling in. And that is just the reality for millions and millions of South Africans, where, they are terrified to go home. When my brother-in-law was murdered on our farm in 2019, I didn't say it was a farm attack. I said the biggest problem in our country at the time, and it still is today, is the fact that crime is out of control. And, life is cheap in South Africa, unfortunately. To answer the second part of your question, and rightly so, what the Prof said as well, the head of the ANC Youth League a few years ago in KwaZulu-Natal died in a hail of bullets. So, either they're going to, the MO is poisoning or, shooting and assassination. But, something's off here for me. And from my gut, something's just telling me that something doesn't sit right here. We had an opposition political party member in Musi Maimane a few days ago talking and complaining about the excessive amount of tax rands that we spend in protecting politicians. And obviously another caller also mentioned Mashatile's protection detail pulling people out of the car. I can't believe that we are actually talking about Paul Mashatile's security convoy again, in essence. But you know what's fishy for me is the fact that you know there hasn't been an immediate statement coming out saying that the deputy president's motorcade was came under attack. They thought it was stones. Trust me, there's a hell of a difference between having stones hit a windscreen, even if it has ballistic bulletproof glass on it, and stones. So you know, and we've all seen what happens. You know, well, let's go back to the old saying that there's no such thing as bad press. Look what happened to Donald Trump after somebody shot at him. So, you know, this is all speculation. Like I said, it's going to be very, very important for the police to come back with their investigation.
Yep.
And hopefully there were some cameras on the bridge or in the area where the shots were fired, or their casings on the ground. Hopefully a weather satellite was going over. Who knows?
Yeah.
But this investigation has to be done. The people of South Africa deserve to see and hear what's going on here.
Yeah, the answers. That's what people want. They want the answers. Yeah. Prof, I need to close this off, but your final thoughts on, should this incident spark concerns about factionalism in the ANC in the run-up to, say, 2027? What is it that the ANC should do and say? If you were within the walls of Luthuli House, what would your advice be?
Well, I think this incident itself is no evidence of factionalism or not. I think most people accept there is factionalism within the ANC. It's building up already towards the 2027 national conference. And if this was a type of a decoy, or it was used as a way of creating sympathy for the deputy president, so it's very early, long before 2027's conference. And therefore, I think this is something which to a large extent will disappear after some time, and it won't make this a significant impact on the internal politics of the ANC.
All right. Gentlemen, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Truly appreciated. Professor Dirk Kotze there, a political analyst there, and of course, he's a political science professor at UNISA. Bradley Steyn, security expert and author as well, joining us on that discussion. We'll continue taking your WhatsApps on it, though, 072 110 5584.